Good morning. I'm coming from Merrimack, Wisconsin, small town in a rural area. I have been faithful to United Women in Faith, and I urge you all to please give in sending checks to International Mission Ukraine directly from United Methodist Women, and the money will come directly from us rather than going through the United Methodist Church. My prayer today is, bow with me. Awesome God, we are praying for all your people who are affected by the siege on the Ukraine, surrounding countries, those giving care, those families who lost loved ones during torture and abuse. Lift up those who are grieving the loss of friends, families, neighbors, and homes. We pray for the lost and kidnapped children of the Ukraine. God, wrap your loving arms around them to give comfort and ease their fears. Shine your light on the leaders of these countries to give them courage and wisdom to help their people. We beseech you to end this crime on your people and restore the world to peace. Amen.
Thank you, Pat. And hi, everyone, and welcome to our second Voices event on Ukraine. I'm Tatiana with United Women in Faith International Programs, and I am your moderator today. In March, you heard directly from our partners from Women's Peace Dialogue platform about the situation and work in Ukraine and neighboring countries. United Women in Faith, formerly United Methodist Women and partners, started Women's Peace Dialogue platform in 2015, and today the platform unites women and women's organizations who work on peace building and gender in the region. Today, 8 months plus 1 day of brutal war, turning children into orphans, women into widows, missiles and drones, taking lives and destroying homes. Damages to energy and water supply. 40% of energy generating units are damaged in Ukraine. And all this happens before the winter. So today, our partners are reporting from the war zone under drones and rockets. So don't be surprised if they have to leave the event if they hear a siren. So let's start Voices from Ukraine update. Despite horrors, Ukrainians are united and motivated in defending their motherland, homes, and families. Today, we have partners from Ukraine, Georgia, and Latvia who will provide update on the situation and their work. United Women in Faith provided emergency grants, so you will also hear about them and about their impact. First, our partners, we will hear from our partners. It's our program for today. Then we will have Q&A. Then after Q&A, we will have 20-minute breakout rooms for those of you who can stay and talk more to our partners. We will also tell you how you can help because needs are enormous. Funds are critical, but also Ukrainians today need continuous support. So please call your senators and representatives to urge them to do more to help Ukraine and stop this war. Also, host events on Ukraine to raise awareness of exactly what's happening there. And again, big thanks to Pat Gellas, our social action coordinator from Wisconsin, who opened our event with a prayer today because she's a big advocate for women and people of Ukraine. Now we turn to Olena Suslova, who is the founder of the Women's Information Consultative Center, a non-governmental organization founded in 1995. Olena is a human rights activist and researcher and has over 20 years of experience working on gender and peace. Please see her full bio in the chat. We will have some time for Q&A at the end, so please put your questions in the chat box. It would be great if you can indicate the speaker you have a question to. If not, just put questions in the chat box. So, Olena, please tell us about the current situation, security, resilience, what more needs to be done to help Ukrainians in their fight against this evil war started by dictator Putin.
Thank you, Tatiana. Good morning from our good evening. Not for all of us in Ukraine this evening as other good ones. Thank you very much for this meeting. It is important for us to see participants from the previous meetings as well as newcomers. Russia's large-scale aggression for more than 8 months continues to increase the negative impact on the lives of people in Ukraine and actually around the world. Damage to about 40% of the energy infrastructure on the eve of winter, the destruction of civil infrastructure facilities, a drop in production in the country, this and other factors complicate people's life, especially if they belong to various vulnerable groups. Only in October, the terrorist country released more than 300 missiles and drones, which were supposed to explode, burn, destroy people. Our houses, playgrounds, streets, no heating, no electricity, no water sometimes. Some stories. 11 years old Artem, a Russian missile hit his house. Artem laid under the rubble of the house for 6 hours. Rescuers and doctors fought for him, but the Russian missile did not give him a chance. Victoria, young and happy woman, was soon to become a mother. On October 17, an Iranian drone killed Victoria, her husband, and their unborn child. Russia destroyed a life that did not even have time to be born. One more story. A Russian missile killed Oksana in the center of Kiev, in the middle of the street. Oksana was a medical doctor, saved children from oncology. She took her son to kindergarten and went to work at the hospital. Stories, stories, stories. Heard, recorded, documented. We do not forget it. At the same time, we work, we fight, and we resist. Ukrainian NGOs, Ukrainian women, support survivors of the conflict-related sexual violence and share first-aid products for people in need. Develop bills and teach society on many, many issues important during the war. We are strong, brave, and active, and we need your support. We can stop war together because we are strong, brave, and active. And we will overcome one day, we are sure. This day is close, and I hope my colleagues will share more stories with you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Olena. We are really all appalled by what's going on the ground. It's horrible. And now we turn to Anastasia Nenka. She's also from Women's Information Consultative Center. Please, Anastasia.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. As Tatiana said, our organization has been operated since 1995, and since the beginning of the war in 2014, as well as since the start of the full-scale invasion on February 24, we have not stopped working for a single day. The first hours and days after the full-scale invasion, When there was a massive rocket attack, we got in touch with all of our activists we work with on various projects, and we have asked them if they were alive and if they were conditionally safe. And if it was so, were they ready to join the activities in those places where they stayed? Among those who agreed, we created an asset that began to study the problems and needs of those people who were close to them. That is why the first months after the full-scale invasion, a new type of activity was added into usual activities of the organization. We started funding ways to meet the urgent needs of specific people. There were medicines, hygiene, food, water, warm clothes, equipment, etc., etc. We were actively cooperated with the police. We saw pictures, and we also aware of the need for mass civilian bomb-proof, such as subways and bomb shelters in school buildings. So had to put out many fires, but we realized that we had to think about systemic solutions that would not only be able to solve urgent problems, but also allow us to move during the acute phase of the war and identify problems and needs. Therefore, we initiated and subsequently advocated the process of updating the National Action Plan 1325, Women, Peace and Security, and we were able to include the problems that became apparent after the full-scale invasion, as well as tasks and measures that they're designed to solve those problems. In addition, Pramila Patten, special representative of the UN Secretary General on sexual violence and conflicts, had visited Kiev in May, and the signing of the memorandum on cooperation with Ukraine had become the impetus for driving up the implementation plan, which we are actively working on the present time. A great support from international partners made it possible to provide two key directions: urgent needs for the civilian population and support of women and their activities who constantly work with the survivors and victims of war. The grants we received from United Women in Faith made it possible to solve the new problems we faced with after the full-scale invasion at the extremely difficult time. Today, you will also hear about some of the projects that were implemented with grants funds. In addition, they had unplanned effect. Those activists who plunged headlong into work not only managed to save themselves from getting into stressful situation, but also helped those who were around them. Self-support groups have been a big help here. The effectiveness has exceeded expectation, and therefore one of the areas for which we are seeking support is the training of facilitators who will be able to conduct such support group with all war victims. We thank you for the support you have given and continue to give. And we would appreciate if you could support us by calling your politicians, asking them to do more to help Ukraine and stop war. Please raise awareness about the situation in Ukraine. We so much need your support to win this horrible war. Thank you.
Thank you, Anastasia. Indeed, it's really important to call your politicians and ask for continuous support for Ukraine. And thank you for everything you are doing in Ukraine, Anastasia, and your team. And now let's turn to Georgia, to the country of Georgia. And I will ask our current coordinator of the Women's Peace Dialogue, Julia Harashvili, to tell about the work with Ukrainian refugees in Georgia. Julia is a chairperson of IDP Women's Association in Georgia. She was displaced herself in 1993 when Russia attacked Georgia's breakaway region, Abkhazia. And Julia founded the organization exactly with the goal to help people like her, displaced by war and conflict. Back then, she didn't know that many years in 2022, she will be working with Ukrainian refugees. Julia, please tell us the story of your work in Georgia.
Thank you, Tatiana, and warm greetings to all sisters and brothers. Very difficult to talk after Anastasia and Olena because they are directly in the fire. And we are trying to help from outside, from more or less safe for the moment place from Georgia. Next, please. Georgia is a small country in Caucasus, not Georgia Atlanta, but Georgia Tbilisi. And our country was in war several times, starting from 1993. Here you can see the figures, and I can tell you that approximately 10% of population continue to suffer from war consequences because they are even internally displaced or they are living alongside the conflict division line. Next, please. And you can see here how this division line looks like. It's established wives, it's broken houses, it's people who again can be in detention by Russians or by people from occupied territories. And it's why population of Georgia took very close to our hearts situation in Ukraine, because we survived a similar situation many years ago, and we know how it is and how difficult it is for people. So please, next. From the first day, from 24 of February, it started that Ukrainians were coming to Georgia, and this process is going on. During all this period, like you can see, almost 140,000 people entered small Georgia. And some of them are staying. Next, please. Both government and civil society of Georgia tried to support and to help to these people by all possible means. And I will tell you what our organization was trying to do, because our organization is a women organization which consists from internally displaced women, from women who suffered by war themselves. So, and we started by humanitarian assistance sent to Ukraine. We had for platform, and Tata mentioned that our platform plays very important role in our life. And so members of platform, Olena and Anastasia, were advising us to which places and to which organization we can help in the first line. And so we were sending humanitarian assistance, and we were sending money for organization from the first day that they could start to operate, even in this terrible condition in horror and under bombing. Then again, due to our experience, we thought that it is necessary to provide emergency psychological assistance. We could not go at that moment to Ukraine, but we were organizing this online. And we were working, for instance, in organizations in the west of Ukraine who were receiving huge number of displaced population, teaching them from our experience how to help, how not to burn out, and how to help to IDPs, that it will be proper, effective, and that it will be the best way. Within Georgia, we were providing free medical and psychological assistance in places of compact living of Ukrainian refugees. Again, humanitarian assistance, and we did, may I have next slides? And we did some rehabilitation camps for mothers and for children, selecting that category which was receiving and which was the most needed, because we were permanently making studies, surveys, what is necessary. Through solidarity and international advocacy, our non-governmental organizations, civil society groups, were promoting Ukrainian participation in all existing platforms and international networks. Through Women's Action Network, we succeeded to promote participation of 2 Ukrainian organizations, including Anastasia's Olena's organization, which was extremely important that they could directly tell to decision makers outside of Ukraine what is needed for people. We also contributed to promotion of creation of funding open windows in Women Humanitarian and Development Fund, specifically for Ukraine and for Moldova. Next, please. Here is some of photos of our counterparts in Ukraine. It's Khmelnytsky, where wonderful organization of Tatiana Baeva was working with IDPs, and we tried to contribute a little bit. Next, please. This is online session where Professor Zurab Deverashvili is providing psychological assistance, teaching people how to cope with trauma in emergency situation. Next, please. And this rehabilitation camp for Ukrainian mothers and children, which we did in a very nice place in resort, when this is day when we were celebrating Day of Ukrainian flag, and children were very happy because they feel close to their native land. Please, next. Very quickly, what we see as the most urgent need: accommodation for people who are refugees from Ukraine continue to stay a problem. During 8 months, it was provided free accommodation by government, free accommodation and food, but still it's now transformed to more durable assistance, and people need accommodation and they need money for this. Temporary shelter currently operate thanks to crowdfunding and voluntary contribution. Employment for women. Women still are driving force as they need to have employment and to support their families. Psychological and uncured trauma stress. Children, because there are no specific kindergarten or kids corners for children. Next, please. Language and vocational training for women, because they need to know basic Georgian to be employed. Advocacy with government of Georgia for prolonging assistance to Ukrainian families. I'm happy to say that today Georgian government decided to prolong assistance to Ukrainian refugees for 6 more months. And it's also part of advocacy which civil society was making. Through platform members, monitoring of situation of the Ukrainian families in Georgia and possibly also in other countries where they are. Self-organizing for women and establishing relations with Georgian NGOs. Thank you. Next, please. Thank you very much, and we hope very much that our very small contribution to assistance will help to our Ukrainian sisters and brothers to cope with this terrible aggression and to win. Glory to Ukraine. Thank you.
Thank you, Julia, for this update. And indeed, there is no such concept as small help. Every help is needed, and it's needed now. And now from Georgia, we will turn to our strategic partner in Latvia. And Marta Center does work in Ukraine and also helps with refugees in Latvia. Iluta Lace is a social worker, a trainer, and an activist. And she started the Resource Center for Women, Marta Center, that educates women about their rights and helps women develop their knowledge and competency. She's an expert in women's rights and gender equality in ex-Soviet countries. And same, you can find her bio in the chat. Please, Iluta.
Yeah, thank you. So on daily basis, we support victims of gender-based violence, sexual violence, trafficking, and exactly, we have tried to find support mechanisms how to support women and children within Latvia, but also within Ukraine. So if you go to next slide, these are the issues that we focused: how to prevent human trafficking of women and children in Latvia, but also European Union, how to support successfully refugees in Latvia so that there are proper social safety measures so that their vulnerability is not used for profiting of traffickers and other main people. And of course, we together with Women's Information Consultative Center and other NGOs, women grassroots organizations, we work to support their efforts for women, peace and security agenda in Ukraine. So let's go to next slide. So at the first days of the war, we connected to organizations in Ukraine and found out their needs and emergency needs, and we developed materials for refugees when they come over borders and when they go to get some kind of services where traffickers are gathering and recruiters. We developed materials in Ukrainian. We provided these information materials in meeting points and fuel stations. We are together, like similarly like in Georgia, there are still every Monday, every Thursday, meetings of NGOs discussing what else should be done to support the refugees from Ukraine. And in our tiny country, where we have less than 2 million inhabitants, currently there are 42,000 refugees. It's a huge amount, and most of them are women with small children. So we work to have possible for them access to work, housing, education, healthcare, and other issues, and everything like this. Currently, these safety measures are really in place. And using my capacity and my power being in different European and international networks, I really try to keep this issue on Russia's war in Ukraine high on agenda. It's really challenging. Honestly, it's really challenging. But from my side, I really try to do this and raise all the issues that people in Ukraine face and what they report to me. And as well as a Georgian organization, we provide psychological consultations for refugees here in Latvia, but also for people in Ukraine using their platforms, Telegram channels, and other means. So I just wanted to tell one short story about a lady from Ukraine that currently works for Marta. In the first days of war, she just disappeared from connections. She's from Mariupol for 2 months, and activist supporting other peoples. And while supporting other people, she got injuries, and 2 months lived with her injuries in basement, survived in mystical way. And in a mystical way, she managed to go through Russia to Estonian border with the help of huge underground volunteer movement. And after 2 months, being kept in total silence, being told that nobody cares about Ukrainian people, she found a refuge in Latvia, and we waited for her on Estonian border, and immediately brought her to hospital so that operations could take place, and so that she could there would be care about her health. So currently she is healthy and works for Marta Center and helps with all the projects that we carry out for people in Latvia and from Ukraine, and also within Ukraine. So let's go to next slide. And together with Anastasia and her wonderful network of those that really care, those activists that really care for women, peace and security agenda, we try to implement the projects and support them in their work, raising funds, writing projects. Recently, like 2 weeks ago, we had a visit of them to Latvia. We try to share our experiences, how we work with sexually abused children, sexually abused women, and other vulnerable groups, what kind of systems we have in place. And also we tried to use this opportunity to keep, again, issue of Ukraine high on agenda, and the need to document all the war crimes that they experience. And if we go to next slide, the final slide, currently, we also managed to get a project from European Reconstruction and Development Bank. And it means that all the work that we carry out in Latvia, but also together with Women's Information and Consultative Center and other grassroots organizations, is supported. If anybody donates to Marta Centers for this work, this donation is doubled. So this project goes until 20th of December. So if you also find a chance to want to double the funding that goes to Ukraine, this is a great opportunity. Thank you. I finish here.
Thank you, Iluta, for telling us what you and your organization, Marta Center, does to support Ukrainians inside and outside of the country. It's a lot of good and very important work. And thank you for updating us on that. And now we will turn to our last speaker, Timothy, who is the head of Safe Space NGO in Zaporizhia. And he will tell us about their work. Timothy moved from Luhansk as an internally displaced person due to the Russian invasion of the east of Ukraine in 2014. He will tell us about his work, his organization's work, and how your giving helped people in Zaporizhia.
Thank you, Tatiana. Good afternoon. My organization acts in human rights, gender equality, prevention and counter domestic violence and gender-based violence. We provide support and assistance for women and children who suffered sexual violence and abuse. Also, we promote the principles of community policing in Ukraine. This year, in February, Zaporizhia became the frontline city. The next day after the war started, I went to police department with food, initial medicines, and warm clothes. I discussed with the chief of the police department and officers risks, challenges, and ways to help and support survivors of the war and support women police officers who went to the front line to defend our country. Those days we were extremely frustrated and frightened, having been shelled by Russian missiles. In a few days, thousands of refugees started arriving in Zaporizhia. As was expected, our city was unprepared to assist everyone who came. Still, the rural communities of Zaporizhia were much more unprepared and unable to help everyone who sought shelter there. So we decided to focus on rural communities hosting refugees, especially women and children. We faced a lack of food, medicines, hygiene, and other essential things for life. We applied to United Women in Faith for grant, and we've got it. The project's primary purpose was to cover the needs of refugees and women with children in crisis. They were given the essential aid of 400 sanitary and hygienic kits. We delivered them to refugees in 3 rural amalgamated communities of the Zaporizhia region. Moreover, all people got legal consultations on registering as refugees for assistance from authorities, charities, and public organizations, including psychological services and employment. At the project's target group was women with children. We managed to assist more than 800 people. As Russians keep shelling our cities and villages with missiles, killing and crippling civilians, women, children, and elders, we continue to help every survivor and every victim of this unprovoked aggression. Winter is coming soon, so we need heating equipment, gas, electric stoves, and cookware. We need to equip safe places for educating children. We need special equipment and clothes for people with disabilities. We need medicine and surgery staff. Recently, in Zaporizhia, Russian missiles killed 33 people in a moment, and 92 were injured. Russians hit the humanitarian convoy of civilians. 2 children were killed with their mother. A 3-year-old boy got an explosive amputation of both legs, and we do not know if he will stay alive. Every day, Russian terrorists shell our city with rockets. Civilian houses, kindergartens, and schools have been smashed. Dozens of civilians have been killed insidiously at night and early in the morning, having no chance to hide from the attack. Every day, Russians are committing war crimes and genocide against Ukrainians. But we stay strong and brave, and we fight for our freedom. Americans paid a heavy price for their freedom. Today, American people help us to defend our independence. And you make us stronger by standing for and next to us. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Timothy. Thank you for telling us what you did. And it's really, it's like impossible to believe that all this is happening. So we heard from all speakers what they do to help women, children, civilians in Ukraine and neighboring countries. And in Ukraine, our partners are working in impossible conditions. You heard about critical needs, and you heard about how, and now you will hear about how mission giving is helping in the situation of real war. So I will ask Cynthia Rice, United Women in Faith Vice President, to talk about giving.
Thank you, Tatiana. Oh, we have heard of what is going on, and we know how we can help because our mission giving is what is going to help with these emergency grants that we've gotten. We are making a difference for the emergency needs of our partners and the neighboring countries to help the displaced Ukrainian families with food and hygiene, blankets, and all the necessities to survive, to keep the children in school, and for social and psychological assistance. This is the work that we are doing. And I like the way Luta said, they get together twice a week and talk about what else can be done. And there is much work to be done. And we want to be able to say that we did something to help in such a time as this. And we, as United Women in Faith, know the answer is mission giving. Mission giving is what we need to do. It's on your screen. Please tell others that there is a way to help. You will be blessed with the blessing of giving. And Tatiana, I also wanted to tell everyone about our next event, our next Voices from the Field event. I hope everyone will mark your calendars for December 5th from 10 to 11 Eastern Time, Voices from the Field from the Philippines. Our team and partners in the Philippines will share their work with us, and we'll hear from Emma Cantor, our regional missionary in the Asia and Pacific based in the Philippines. She leads women and their country team, the strategic partners, and they'll be with us. That's December 5th.
Thank you, Cynthia. And now we have like very few, but still minutes, and we will ask my colleague, Christy Campus, to lead us in questions and answers. But after the official program, you can still stay with us if you want to talk more to our partners. Please, Christy.
Thank you. I know we have just a few minutes, but I would like to reiterate the first question that we always have as United Women in Faith is, what can we do to help? What can we do right now? And so I would like to thank Cynthia for doing such an excellent job of sharing that the biggest way you can help is to give right now. And you saw throughout our program how the emergency grants that were given out to help the work of these panelists have been powerful over the past year. And so it is my honor to address our speakers today and tell you that we have all been so moved by your powerful words and witness and the images that you have shown us. Two of you spoke specifically about sexual violence concerns. And so one of the questions that I would like to ask is, could you tell us what those sexual violence dangers are for the refugees and for those returning to the Ukraine? What is that situation?
Maybe I will answer this question. Actually, our organization, we started to work with survivors of the conflict-related sexual violence since first days of invasion. And now the most dangerous situation is at the temporary occupied territories. Three regions what already liberated, Kiev region, Sumy region, and Chernihiv region. We have a lot of cases from this situation. And really, maybe the conflict-related sexual violence has very latent character. And for us in Ukraine now, the main goal is to create favorable environment for survivors. They could speak up, they could speak, they could look for support. It is not very fast process. However, we try and we work for it.
Thank you. Thank you for answering that. We also heard today about the kindergartens being closed, and we would like to know what it's like as for working women who are going back with their children and with schools being closed. What is that situation like? I know, Julia, you spoke to that.
Maybe some of my colleagues would like to answer at this Christie's answer. Timothy, do you like to answer?
Yes, thank you. Zaporizhia has very difficult situation with education for our children. Now, no one child goes to school because everyone receive education via the Zoom Zoom application or having a self-education program. It's very difficult, and I think it's not a very high quality education in this time. So we don't know how to change the situation, and if we liberate our territories, and if we got the special arm to protect our city from, it would be the chance to our children to get education in school or colleges. Thank you.
Я хотіла б додати. Справа в тому, що зараз, на прикладі моєї доньки, починаються уроки, починається повітряна тривога, і потім вже всі мають йти в укриття, і вчителі також. І на період, поки відбувається повітряна тривога, уроки перериваються. Вони можуть перериватися на 30 хвилин, можуть на 2 години, можуть на 5 годин. І тому від цього, звичайно ж, процес, він дуже страждає. І діти також знаходяться в постійному стресі. Вчителі хочуть дати знання, але якщо дитина психологічно знаходиться в стресі, то чи здатна дитина сприймати такі знання? І чим молодша дитина, тим, звичайно ж, усвідомлення всіх цих речей, воно може відбуватися по-різному. Тому дуже багато приходиться приділяти часу тому, щоб займатися додатково з дітьми. Потім, після своєї основної роботи, ввечері, це додаткове навантаження, якщо ти хочеш, щоб дитина в подальшому ще могла себе реалізувати і була освіченою людиною. Дякую.
Thank you so much for adding that. That is very meaningful. We do often think about the physical needs of the women and children there, but we forget sometimes about the serious emotional needs. So thank you for that reminder. I think we probably do not have time for any more questions right now, but I know you will have, we hope you will all participate in the breakout sessions because there will be time for more questions then. And thank you all speakers very much for participating today.
Thank you all for joining us today. We especially want to thank our guests, the members of the Women's Peace Dialogue platform. This unjust war against Ukraine has created disproportional loss of life, human suffering, and displacement to the people of Ukraine. Today, more than ever, your financial support is important. When the war destroyed lives and livelihoods in Ukraine, United Methodist Women, United Women in Faith members stepped up to provide support and relief to the Ukrainians. Now, 8 months into the war, the people of Ukraine are still in desperate need of your support. We, as United Women in Faith, continue to stand in solidarity with Ukrainian women and the people of Ukraine against this unjust war. And we thank United Women in Faith for their continued support.